Gold is not magic. It doesn't produce food. It doesn't build homes. It doesn't cure disease. So why, for thousands of years, does gold keep returning as the asset people run to when everything else breaks? Because gold matters most when promises fail. And almost everything in modern money is a promise. Your salary is a promise. Your bank balance is a promise. A government bond is a promise. Even paper cash is a promise, backed by faith in the state. Most days, that faith holds. So gold looks boring, old-fashioned, just a metal. But history shows the real function of gold isn't wealth. It's insurance against disbelief. You're watching Hidden Money History. Here's the pattern. In stable times, society prefers convenience. Paper, digits, credit. You can move it fast. You can borrow against it. You can build entire economies on it. And as long as trust is stable, these promises behave like reality. But then stress hits. War, banking panic, political collapse, hyperinflation, currency controls, debt spirals. And suddenly people stop asking, how convenient is this money? They start asking, can I actually trust it tomorrow? That's the moment gold matters. Because gold is one of the few assets that doesn't need a counterparty. If you hold a bank deposit, your money depends on a bank staying liquid. If you hold a bond, your money depends on a government staying solvent. If you hold paper currency, your money depends on a state enforcing acceptance. But gold doesn't need any institution to perform. It doesn't promise you a return. It just refuses to disappear. That's why gold becomes relevant only when the system becomes questionable. Now here's what most people miss. Gold isn't the first choice. It's the last resort. People don't rush to gold when life is normal. They rush when the credibility of everything else is cracking. You can see this in history again and again. When governments debase coins, gold becomes a measurement of honesty. When paper money inflates, gold becomes a unit people trust more than the note. When banks restrict withdrawals, gold becomes portable savings outside the lock. Not because gold is better money every day, but because it is harder to fake belief into existence around it. That's why central banks still hold gold, even in a world of satellites, apps, and algorithms. Because when credibility is questioned, the ultimate asset is the one that doesn't require an explanation. Gold is simple. No earnings report, no policy speech, no temporary measure, no confidence campaign. Just scarcity, durability, and universal recognition. But there's a sharper truth here. Gold is a mirror. It reflects trust. When trust is high, gold fades into the background. When trust breaks, gold becomes loud. So what does it mean when gold starts rising? It doesn't always mean the world is ending, but it often means fear is rising. Fear of inflation, fear of currency debasement, fear of political instability, fear of financial plumbing seizing up. Because when people feel the ground moving under the system, they look for something outside the system, and gold sits in that category. Now let's be honest, gold has weaknesses. It doesn't generate income. It can be volatile. It can be manipulated in the short term. And it's not a perfect shield against every crisis. But gold's role is psychological and structural. It's a form of value that doesn't require trust in a specific institution. That's why, during extreme moments, you see the same behaviors emerge. People try to convert fragile promises into harder assets, cash into goods, digits into something they can hold, claims into ownership. And gold becomes one of the simplest escape hatches. Here's the deeper lesson. Every money system is a story, a shared agreement, a set of promises we act as if they are real. Those promises can work beautifully for decades, but once a system breaks credibility, once people believe the rules can change overnight, the story loses power. And when the story loses power, the public looks for value that doesn't depend on the story. That's why gold keeps coming back. Not because gold is the future, because gold is what people grab when the future feels uncertain. So the title is the truth. Gold matters only when promises fail. It matters when your bank statement feels like a suggestion, when the currency feels like a melting ice cube, when trust us stops working. Now I want your answer in the comments. What do you trust more in a crisis? Government guarantees, bank deposits, or assets outside the system? And if you want more stories where money and power collide, subscribe to Hidden Money History.